Hi and welcome. I am Dr. April Givens, licensed psychotherapist, and I am here with author and Hope Ambassador, Jan Stewart. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm delighted to be here, Dr. April. Would you like me to give you a little background first?
Yes, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I have two heroic children. Son Andrew, who has autism, Tourette syndrome, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disabilities, and his younger sister Ainsley, who also has Tourette syndrome disabilities, but also severe mood and anxiety disorders. Almost from the time they were born, my husband and I sensed that something was wrong. A number of what we later learned were neurodevelopmental markers, but of course we didn't know at the time, inexperienced. And every time I approached the pediatrician with a concern, told me, Jan, calm down. Your children are fine. You just need to leave worrying. I'm sure a number of you have heard this before. It's fairly common, unfortunately. I trusted my gut. Through the next several years, we saw increasing impulsivity, actability, tics. Neither child could hold a pencil or crayon correctly. 9. His obsessive compulsive disorder and Tourette syndrome exploded suddenly out of the blue with nonstop compulsive rituals, rages. And in Ainsley's case, while she was much a toddler, at school, her behavior was out of control. She was disruptive, constantly sent to the principal's office, and then came fragility. She couldn't read social cues, and she lost every friend she had ever had in the neighborhood, as you can imagine. So we entered a journey finding all the right psychiatrists, psychologists, schools. It's a journey that continues today. Children have faced really heartbreaking adversity and know that their lives are down cycles for the rest of their lives. But I am so proud of them. Wonderful full-time jobs. They're valued members of society, and their grit, determination to succeed are unparalleled in my view. And that's coming up. Hold on tight. A parent's journey raising children with mental illness tells the toll. I want parents and families and educators and employers, friends, know the unsugar-coated reality of raising kids with these disorders equally assesses. And I want to embrace the insights that I share in the book, my own journey, and through my mental health governance and advocacy work. And I really want to help people lead better lives. Get the message, hope, there's help, you can do it.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know today we want to talk about 5 tips you wanted to discuss about, helping parents that are dealing with children with mental disorders. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the tips that you feel have helped you on your journey and what you would like for other parents to know?
Thank you, Dr. April. I think the first one maybe we should discuss, and I'd love your input as well, openly with your child. Children are naturally frightened when they're at school, when they're in pain, when they don't understand what's happening in their lives. There's no question, even if they don't say it, they want help. So sit down with them, listen to criticism or judgment if you can. It's hard at times. Validate how they're feeling, interested and valued. When Andrew was going through those horrific rages and rituals one day that he felt he was going crazy and wanted to die. And I just wrote me a note on my bed one afternoon that said, Mom, I know I'm a bad kid. I had to control behavior with all the chaos at home. And I just shrunk. Wow. But my son was up and sat down with them and talked with them openly, warn them, and let them know what was happening. We didn't avoid or hide information. I think it's important to empower them to this day so that as they grew older, involved in their own advocacy and their own treatment. We've heard parents say that they're concerned, and I'm sure you've heard this, I'd love your perspective, that they don't want their children to feel out. And so they're afraid to talk openly with them. What do you do about that, Dr. A?
Well, I think it's very important, like you stated, to talk openly with your child so they can learn how to feel comfortable coming to you with whatever it is that they're experiencing, especially if they're feeling some level of sadness or something that's going on with mental health. Be able to have that listening ear and that support. Support is important. And so who do you get your support from as a child? You get that from your parents. So being able to come to your parent and tell them without any judgment that, hey, this is what I'm experiencing and this is what I'm going through. So absolutely, that's the first step.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. There's no sense you want to make them feel valued.
Right. So that's our first tip. So tip number 1 is talk openly with your child. So let's go on to your second tip. What would you suggest?
I'd suggest, and this one is often in the background. It's very easy when you have a child with a mental health disorder. That's common. to unintentionally relegate a sibling who is not facing yours to the background. I know I've done it with Ainsley. Independent of her own mental health disorders, when Andrew was going through those terrifying explosive rages that, by the way, lasted 2 hours almost every day. I found her in her closet, shaking and hiding with fear. I recognized it right away and scooped her up. So David and I had very to ourselves to begin with, precious little, but we devoted that extra time to her. What a one-on-one time with her, doing activities that she enjoyed. That was very key. It was going skating, playing hockey, soccer. She's a big sports all the time. We baked. We played a Candyland and checkers and other board games. We had a local urban farm program that had a wonderful program, and that gave her such relief and respite away from the stresses at home, and by the way, a lifelong love of animals that continues today. But most importantly, with her, and using age-appropriate language, explained and demystified so that she was less afraid.
Right. So I think that's awesome.
Now, what tips do you have to see what other additional tips you have?
Well, I think what you stated is being able to make that other child feel comfortable and explain to them exactly what's happening, with their sibling. So I think, hey, you hit the nail on the head. Being able to do that, that's important. So most parents, they don't do that. And a lot of times the other child feel alienated because they're not getting the love and attention that they feel like they deserve, because all the attention is going over to the other child who may need the extra help and support. So I think it's important to be able to balance that with all kids, to be able to, you have that child who needs extra support, but don't forget about the other kids as well and include them in some type of way so they can help.
Yes, I think you've hit it on the head too. These are all very important.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go on to tip number 3.
It's accept the reality of your life. Children's mental health, every family member's life into disarray. There's going to be fear, anger, and resentment. I can't tell you, Dr. Abel, how many times I've wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. But I've gone to church and I've prayed, why me? Why us? Move forward is to accept that your life won't be as planned for or hoped for. My husband and I had to reset those expectations. We started the same as I think every young parent. We had hopes and dreams of happy, successful children. Reality couldn't have been more different. We were terrified of Andrew's riches and rages. I was so by the constant calls from Ainsley's principal and her paralyzing anxiety. Any social life, we couldn't have people over for years because we never knew what was going to happen. The good news is that other parents of special needs kids formed a community and supported each other. And we even were able to joke, and still to this day, joke that other families may not find funny. Whether it was Andrew gnawing on from his OCD, or Ainsley rudely swearing at her teachers, or I remember vividly friends of ours who had a son with severe. They came home one afternoon, they found him hanging from the 3rd floor bedroom window. Terrified by this, we just have to lift our hands up and laugh and try not to all the time. But part of accepting the reality is recalibrating the support you can expect to receive from others, from family and friends. Unfortunately, as you know, a lack of education leads to misunderstandings, fear. Both my husbands and my families were extremely understanding and supportive. My mother, who I thought understood everything and was my closest confidant in the world, one day, and said to me, Jan, if you were just a stricter parent, it would disappear. I don't think so. Many parents and find that their families are too busy, are not interested, are scared challenges. Right. And there are even some really bad, erroneous impressions out there that the child or morally deficient. I mean, how would you feel if an aunt or uncle said that to you? And when it comes to friends can also do this for the same reasons. It's very upsetting. You really need their support. I have a friend whose daughter had been very ill 2 years previously. And I had their children on and off for 6 months. And when I called her to tell her about our kids, she basically disappeared. Now, I'm sure there are reasons, but the factors were compounded in my case because I was so consumed with Andrew and Ainsley's care. No time to invest in developing and maintaining the friendships. And again, that key, parents of special needs kids who formed a community support, and was actually wonderful. So my message and tip here is focus on it's admittedly much easier with friends.
Right.
And as difficult as it may be, you are not truly there for you. With family, sometimes you can't shed them, but you can limit your engagement to smile, to leave the room and breathe, engage in a discussion about your children's disorders with them. That's the last thing you want to do. Any additional information you have?
Well, I think you pointed out a really great tip as opposed to forming a support group. Finding like minded people in your community who are experiencing the same thing. I can't stress that enough. That's important. And how you do that is, going to some of the hospitals and the treatment places, and they can give you a list of groups that may be in the area, support groups, and you meet up with like-minded people who are experiencing the same things. And so they understand your journey because they're going through it as well. So being able to do that and lean on each other in the community.
Absolutely. And those support groups to this day are very reaffirming for my husband. You have to do your research tied to this. I remember when we started our first support group, Toronto, the ADHD support group. And it was wonderful to find parents who had the same type of impulsivity, distractibility, hyperactivity, but no other parent rages. And it took a few months, but David one day was reading about Tourette syndrome, read that rages were associated commonly with Tourette. And I can't tell you the nearest Tourette Canada support group, and it was there that we really found our home. One final word on accepting the reality of your life that ties to these support groups. Be careful on the internet. Right. It's a wonderful, critical information and research. I'm sure, though, you've all heard of certain celebrities that autism can be caused by vaccines and grow autism. As you know, Dr. April, there's no evidence of any of that today. Autism.
Yeah, and that's true. So like you said, I think it's important to be careful of the information that you are consuming and actually get really peer-reviewed research and talk to, health professionals about what it is that you're experiencing and not just going by what you heard or what you see kind of on the internet. That's important, in every aspect.
Yes, you definitely want to veer.
Okay. So what's your next tip?
I think is be kind to your partner, to your spouse. This has, at the beginning, mental health disorders. You always want to be kind, but it's easy whenever we're in doubt of the person closest to you. When you have a child with a mental health disorder magnified, the stress and strain can be absolutely debilitating. It's wild, but true partnership means coming together for the children, partner care, and really being there for them as a unit. Parents blame one another, accuse one another, undermine, and there can everything from diagnoses to discipline to therapy and medications. Medication, huge disagreements. One parent may not believe in medications, needs medications, and may be concerned, and understandably so at times, that the child's zombie. And these issues divide spouses and partners which of course doesn't help anything. You have to watch all that. And David, in this, again, we've had no time for each other at times, but the key is that we trust one another. We lean on one another, we doubt, and we even joke about the genesis of the kids' disorders. David has a rest. I point to him and say, aha, ADHD. He also has blinks nonstop, and I'll say, it's Tourette syndrome. And he'll point right back at me with my aha back, OCD. It really doesn't matter where these disorders perspective. Right. From a clinical research perspective, it's very interesting. But act harmoniously in the children's best interests. As you know, children have antennae when parents are not on the same page. So you really do want to support your spouse or your partner.
That's good. Yes, absolutely. Maintaining a united front. That's important. And especially in front of the children. And if you have a disagreement, try not to do it in front of the children. Go off and have these conversations privately on how you can compromise and work together just for the betterment of your child. So that's very important.
It's not easy. I know, and David's right, that I make decisions too quickly and he'll drive them too slowly. But we meet, we compromise, we talk, and we move forward together.
Sounds good. So, final words?
Yes, I think it's important to make a financial plan.
Okay.
I always remember a quote that Alan Lakin has said. He says, failing to plan is planning to fail. Mm-hmm. There's no question that these disorders can be extremely expensive. Medications that aren't covered fully by insurance. Therapy might have to be private. Education that might need to be private and expensive. And in some cases, including, we have to take care of our children financially for the rest of their lives. And that means clothing, food, transportation, the whole bit. It can be exorbitantly expensive. Every government I know, whether it's state, provincial, federal, or national, for costs. So you have to, there's that word again, persevere, and really keep looking. But it's something you absolutely have to do, because financial planning will really help that burden that these disorders bring. In our case, sacrifices, whether it's in terms of cars, vacations, we don't spend, we're not going to have the luxury to retire in the sun or to try to retire. But that's okay. We've made it a priority, and we're at peace wide for the children and give them as strong a future as we can financially. My advice is to seek a fee-based financial planner. A fee-based is in their objective, and it can make such a difference between having a more secure future.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, financial planning is very important. So being able to do that, that I think that's a really great tip for parents who are definitely dealing with children with mental health disorders. Create a plan, and stay within your budget. Try not to live well above your means so you can be able to afford the things that you need, because you never know what unexpected expenses may come about as a result. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think I should have pointed out that these insights we've been talking about, these 5 tips, are universal. Mm-hmm. So whether you're struggling financially or very comfortable, they cross all boundaries, cultures, ethnicities, sexual orientation, gender identity. It doesn't matter. Again, that you hear of grit, perseverance, determination, and that does the trick. Finding income supports to help with basic living expenses. Employment assistance is available. School scholarships for those in need. Mm-hmm. Systems are difficult to navigate and to figure out, so you can turn to someone to help. They're there, so keep at it.
Great advice. Very amazing tips. I think these are really helpful for everyone to, take and use right away. So let's get a picture of your book again and tell us a little bit about it and when it will be available to purchase.
Well, so here's Hold On Tight, A Parent's Journey Raising Children with Mental Illness. It's going to be out and released on March 8th, but it's already up for pre-order on Apple and Indigo. Okay. You can also follow my website at Jan. And if you're interested in more information about tips and insights, you can sign up for Dr. April Knows. We connected initially through Instagram. Right. And I post every author on both Instagram and Facebook on mental health.
Okay. And what is the website again what's your website again that you stated?
It's www.janhub.
Okay. JanHub. Okay, sounds good. Well, I thank you so much today for joining me. This has been amazing. You have provided some great information, to parents, and I just hope, they utilize these tips.
And I thank you, Dr. April. You really gave as well, and I think we're a wonderful partnership.
Right, absolutely. So thank you again. And to everyone else, Happy New Year out there, and be blessed. See you next time.
Bye-bye.